Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Lori. I wanted to do a video today on dark energies, parasites, dark beings, some people call them demons, things that we've been experiencing as humans on the earth plane for a very long time that feel very dark, negative, fear-based, those types of things. I was sitting outside just listening to music, not even thinking about this, and my guides dropped in a huge piece of information, and it became very clear to me what's going on and why some of us are no longer experiencing these darker energies, and why there are many humans that still are. So if you don't know my work, I see everything as energy. I see the world as energy. I experience everything as energy. And I explain everything in the eyes of energy and frequency, because the beings that I work with, the light beings that I work with, are very high frequency, high dimensional beings. And so the way they view us and our circumstance is through energy and frequency and dimension, because that is basically how this all moves about. It's all energy. The bottom line, at the end of the day, it's all just energy moving and shifting, right? And it's us as energetic beings playing in this energetic field. So dark beings, dark entities, parasites, those kinds of things, it's just another energetic frequency, energetic being, right? So I'll start by saying that we live in a third dimensional matrix, a third dimensional field. And in that third dimensional field, we experience many different energies. It's very dualistic in this third dimension because it is a very low vibration. It's a very low frequency. So that means that a lot of different entities, frequencies, energies can come in and play, right? They can play around and we can experience them. Because if you're at a little bit higher frequency, you have no problem moving into lower frequencies. Right? It's easy as in a higher frequency to move into a lower frequency. It's almost impossible if you are at a lower vibration to jump into a higher frequency. That would be like me saying to you right now, hey, can you jump into a fifth dimensional frequency? You wouldn't be able to, because your own energetic light has to be vibrating and resonating at that frequency that you are going to go and experience. So if I wanted to go and experience a fifth dimensional reality, I would have to be vibrating at that dimension, at that frequency. And if I'm not, I won't be able to experience it. And so if you're vibrating at a fifth dimensional frequency, you can move into a third dimensional frequency very easily. You can go backward, it's very hard to go up. So we can experience two-dimensional beings, right? Or if we had a second dimensional frequency, we could experience that. Right? And a lot of us are feeling this in our own ascension process. You'll notice yourself moving into higher states of consciousness or feeling in a higher vibration, and then you'll find yourself moving back down into a lower vibration, right? So you're finding yourself shifting up and then bringing yourself back down, right? Very slow shifts, right? Where you're very slowly shifting. You're not jumping into a completely other dimension. Most of us aren't. The reason I share this and explain it in this way is because there are many, many, many humans that are allowing, and thank God they're allowing, we should be allowing our crowns to begin to open up more and more. And we're becoming more activated. Our third eye is beginning to activate. So we're seeing more, feeling more, hearing more, receiving more. And there is a reality that exists, a belief system and a paradigm that exists, that has been around for a very long time and that is still experienced, where humans are feeling, experiencing, and having exchanges with darker energies, darker beings, demons, parasites, darker entities. You can call it whatever you want to call it. It's just a darker energy. It doesn't vibrate much higher than our own third dimensional frequency, right? And that's why they're capable of coming in and why we're capable of really being able to experience them. However, when there are many, many humans that are no longer experiencing these darker energies, living on the same earth plane, living in the same type of physical body, but they are not experiencing these darker energies any longer. And the reason for this is that when the human being begins to raise their frequency, they begin to shift into a higher state of consciousness. And the vibration that they are holding in their body is higher. Their realities begin to shift. The paradigms that they are holding around their field and their experience begin to shift. And so what happens is these darker entities and beings do not infiltrate or penetrate into their reality and their paradigm because they are vibrating higher. It's not something that you can see. So you can't look at me and say, oh, she's vibrating much higher. She must not have experiences with these darker energies. You can't see it. So it's very hard for a human to conceptualize this, to understand it, because it's all energy and you can't see it. It resides in a very quantum field, so you can't see it. But when a human is raising its consciousness and frequency, the realities in which you hold will shift. You will no longer be experiencing darker energies or parasites or demons. And what happens is the belief that those are around will not follow you as you shift. The belief that when I open my crown, I have to say only the light beings can come in, I don't say that. Why? Because I am holding myself in a higher state of consciousness, and I hold a reality, a belief, and I reside in a paradigm and knowingness that those darker energies and beings will not come into my field. So, when we begin to shift, we also realize that we have choices. This is another huge piece of this. Not only is it energy, but it's a choice. So we get to choose what we want to experience in our world. When you start shifting into higher states of consciousness, guess what? You have way more, you understand way more that you have a choice. That just because someone tells you that this is how it is, or someone tells you that this is going to be your experience, you actually now, as you're shifting into higher states of consciousness, get to feel whether that feels right to you or not. Let me sit with that for a second. Actually, that doesn't feel right. I don't believe that any longer. I am not holding the belief and knowingness that if I open my crown, dark energies are going to come in. Let me remind all of us, when you talk about going to the new earth, when you talk about shifting into a fifth dimensional frequency and dimension, dark energies do not reside in that field. They don't reside in those dimensions. The higher you go up in dimension, the more light it is. The more light something is, the closer it is to pure love, pure light, pure source, pure God. So even going up 2 dimensions, you get just a tad bit closer to that divine God spark, right? And an energy that is like a demon or a parasite or a entity, they cannot enter into a fifth dimensional space. Just like I said earlier. So if you think about it, thinking about your own light, we can't step into this fifth dimensional space, in this fifth dimensional frequency, this new earth that everyone talks about, until our own frequency is in that space, is vibrating at the fifth dimension. We can't go there until that time comes, right? We can begin to shift higher and higher and begin to kind of tap into it, but we can't get there until we ourselves are vibrating at it. It's the same thing for the dark energies, for the parasites, for the demons, for the dark beings, whatever you want to call them. they have to raise their own frequency in order to meet us in that fifth dimensional space. They have to raise their own frequency to meet me in the light, in the consciousness that I'm holding right now. And they're not going to do that. They exist the way they exist for whatever reason they're existing in that space, whatever experience they're choosing to have. And as I continue to raise my frequency and my consciousness, these beings are going to stay in a lower state of consciousness. So if you just think about physics, just energy alone, just the way energy works, and you should know this by now, a lot of us, because we're moving through it ourselves. We're trying so desperately to hear our higher selves, right? The reason it's challenging is because the higher self holds a higher frequency than us. We're trying so hard to connect to our guides and our star families. The reasons it's hard is because they hold a higher frequency. We're trying really hard to move into the fifth dimension. The reason it's going to take us a very long time is because we don't hold that frequency yet. So these darker beings that are around in a reality and paradigm on this earth plane, but are in a lower frequency, are not going to come along for the ride because they don't vibrate at these higher states of consciousness. So when you start moving into higher states of consciousness, not only do you have a choice as to what you are going to believe in and what you are going to pull into your own reality, but you're not going to hold, these beings are not going to come into your field. They can't. You can't access higher dimensions and higher frequencies when you are spinning lower. These darker beings cannot come into your field if you are vibrating higher than them. It's physics, energy alone, regardless of what you believe in. And this is not to say that there is no right or wrong in any of this, okay? There are millions of people on the planet that experience these dark beings and experience these demons and these parasites and these entities, right? And it's okay, because no matter what, if you are experiencing them, you will shift out of experiencing them. You absolutely will. All of humanity is. Because it is a third dimensional experience. It is not a fifth dimensional experience. It's not. And so as we continue to shift, these experiences that we're holding in a lower frequency aren't coming. So right now, if you're experiencing them, my recommendation to you would be, first of all, begin to ask yourself, is this a story that somebody told you about your experience? Have you actually had these experiences? Or has somebody told you this is what's going to happen if you open your crown? Make sure when you open your crown that you say this, 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 this. Hey, by the way, did you know there are entities inside of you? Hey, did you know I'm feeling like there may be a parasite inside of you? Okay, so pay attention to whether it is your belief, your story, or if it's someone else's. And these someone else's aren't doing an injustice. They just hold a belief and a reality that resides in a certain frequency, and you have the choice to decide whether that is your reality and paradigm that you want to grab onto and feel into that. Just because it has been an experience for many, 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 many years, and people are still experiencing it, and all these people are talking about it and teaching about it and telling you how to heal it and how to get rid of it, doesn't mean it's in your reality. There are so many things that we believe and buy into that we aren't even experiencing. We aren't even experiencing it, but we're believing it. When you shift into higher states of consciousness, you start to really understand that it all comes back to you. You have the power. You have the choice. You have the control. What are you feeling? By the way, when you move into higher states of consciousness, which a lot of you are, you're going to start to feel more. You're going to feel a lot more. And one of the things you're going to feel is your own truth. You're going to resonate with what someone's saying, or you're not. There are many people that are going to watch this video and not resonate with it. And that's great. We're not all going to be resonating in the same zone, in the same frequency. But no matter what, we're all going to be moving into higher states of consciousness, and we all will be leaving the experience of dark beings and entities and parasites. They do not belong or exist in higher states of consciousness. It doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen because they vibrate at a lower frequency. You can't take a lower frequency and throw it into a higher frequency. It can't get in there. Just like we can't jump into a fifth dimension right now. Even if I tried and prayed and did everything I could, I wouldn't jump in. These entities won't jump into a fifth dimension. So no matter what, whether this resonates with you at this point or not, eventually down the road, you will shift out of experiencing the darker fields around us. And you can live in this matrix and not experience these darker energies by bringing awareness and consciousness to what you want to live in your reality. What do you want to believe in? And I think there's a huge number of us that believe in things that we aren't even experiencing. I really, really deeply believe that. And part of shifting into higher states of consciousness is trying to decipher what is yours and what is not. The whole purpose of this video and what came through is to give you guys the power back and to feel what resonates with you and to understand that we are coming out of dark ages. We are moving out of the dark ages. These entities, these darker beings, they live in the darker ages and the darker frequencies, and we're shifting out of it. You have a choice. You can absolutely remain in it. And for those of you that are still experiencing it, right? That are actually like when you open your crown, you actually do experience dark energies. If you are actually unequivocally experiencing dark energies when you open your crown, then I would suggest and recommend that you begin to pull in the reality and the knowingness that you're safe, okay? And that you don't need to sit in that reality anymore. Sorry, my hair is being really funky. You don't need to have, that's a reality that you don't need to choose to be in. I swear it's that simple. Choose a different reality. When you sit down to meditate and you open up your crown, think about what you're thinking first. Oh, I better make sure I invite only the light beings because I don't want dark beings to come in, right? Instead of doing that, if that's what you do, change the way you say it and say, my belief, my reality, my paradigm is that I am vibrating at a higher frequency and my frequency is vibrating at a level that these beings can't come in. Say it over and over and over again. For a lot of you, you're not actually experiencing darker beings or darker entities or parasites, but you're being told that that's going to happen. So be prepared, be prepared, be prepared, this might happen, be prepared, this might happen, be prepared, this might happen. Okay, why am I preparing myself for something dark to come in? What am I doing? Why am I doing that? That doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to do that. And again, I want to also preface this. If you're in a group setting and there is a facilitator that is saying, make sure when you open your crown that you ask for only the highest of high beings to come in, that's a fear-based statement. And when you are stating fear-based statements, you are creating a fear, right? And so you're inviting darker things to come into this realm. They've had experiences perhaps of darker energy, so there's a fear around it. They've probably experienced darker energies, darker entities, demons. They've probably experienced it. So all they're doing is trying to protect you. And God bless them. Anybody that's doing that, right? It's always to help the human. It's never a bad thing. People are not trying to harm the human. They're trying to help the human. But think about when you're in this type of group setting, right? Or any sort of setting. If somebody says that, ask yourself, is this my reality? Is that my truth? Is that my truth? Do I believe that? Do I want to believe that? That's the other thing. Do I want to believe that? Do I want to believe that now? Let me think. Do I actually have a choice? Yes. We are masterful, creative, multidimensional beings. You're not stuck anywhere. You're not stuck in a reality. You're not stuck in a paradigm. You're not stuck in a belief system. you're not stuck in an energetic frequency, you have choice. You have a choice. And so bring awareness to the knowingness that you're shifting to higher states of consciousness. And when you do, you are vibrated at a different frequency. And when you do, lower frequencies can't come in. That's an absolute. Second, be aware of what you are hearing and taking on from other people, other people's stories, other people's beliefs, other people's realities. Just because millions of people believe something doesn't mean it's your reality. It doesn't mean it's your consciousness. It doesn't mean it's your paradigm. And this goes for anything, you guys. This is not just about dark beings. This is about anything. Anything. Just because millions of people believe something, if it doesn't resonate with you, listen to yourself. Listen to your energy. You're shifting. You're shifting out of the old and into the new. You're shifting out of old beliefs. You're shifting out of old paradigms. You're shifting out of old ways of being into new realities, new paradigms, and new ways of being. And there are millions and millions of people that are not there yet. There are a handful of people that are moving here. And so it's uncomfortable for the human to move out of the herd, listen and trust themselves, and move up here. But these beings that I communicate with want this message to get across to you guys, to trust yourselves. What's my reality? What do I want to believe? What do I want to hold? What debates do I want to have with people about this? What am I choosing for my reality, my paradigm? And then begin to remember. And this is not to say that, listen, everybody has their own movement. We are all, every single human is moving through this shift in consciousness in their own pace, in their own time frame. And there is absolutely, unequivocally no right or wrong in the speed at which each human is doing it. There is nothing right or wrong about whether you are experiencing entities right now or not. This video is an invitation to begin to understand it more from an energetic level. That's all. And that if you are experiencing them, you will shift out of experiencing them. We're all in different places. And there are some of us that are teetering between these kinds of realities and paradigms and aren't sure any longer, like, well, this doesn't resonate. I'm not even having these experiences. Why am I continuing to believe this? Let me think about this over here. Let me think about what resonates with me, right? What I feel to be my truth. You have to remember also the earth herself has already shifted into a higher frequency, or higher dimension, I should say. She's already resonating and vibrating in a higher dimension, which is part of the reason why there are a lot of the old well, I'm not going to go there, but I was going to say the abductions and the hybridization program, all these things that are really dark, dark, dark experiences that the earth has had, they're not existing any longer, but that's a totally different subject. I've spoken about it in an earlier YouTube, but again, when things move, when beings move into higher states of consciousness, that equals a higher frequency, which equals a little bit higher dimension, even though dimension is a bigger shift. You're shifting eventually into a higher dimension. Higher state of consciousness equals higher frequency. Higher frequency means lower frequency can't get in there. It can't invade it. It doesn't happen. It's physics. It's energy. It's very simple. And so start to understand that you are shifting. Regardless of whether you see it or not, you're not going to see it. You're shifting. What is yours and what is someone else's? And there's no right or wrong, good or bad about you or anyone else. There's no attachment or condition or judgment around any of it. It just all is. It's just this huge playground that we're in, this huge energetic playground that we're in. And the more you can understand energy and frequency, the easier it will be to manipulate this game and to move through this matrix and game we call the third dimension. Dark beings, parasites, entities, demons, these are all aspects and parts of the game. and they vibrate at a frequency. That's it. And when you start to shift out of the lower, slower frequencies, you're not going to experience this anymore. And there's nothing wrong with people that are experiencing them. It's uncomfortable, it's painful, it's not fun. Nothing wrong with it. There's no judgment around it. They'll eventually shift out of it. But for those of you that aren't experiencing this anymore, but are still believing in it because you don't want to open up your crown or you don't want to start bringing in energies and frequencies, are you actually experiencing this, or are you just believing what people are telling you? Think about it. And think about that for anything. Anything. I think I've touched on everything. I have little notes that I wrote when I was pulling in the information. Yeah, so hopefully this was useful and you could understand it. And you can take this with many different things, right? Like I said earlier, not just about darker energies. You can use this with anything that you're moving out of, any paradigm you're stepping out of, any reality that you're stepping out of. Remembering that in this matrix that we're in this third dimensional playground, as we shift, right, as we continue to move into higher states of consciousness, there are new realities and new paradigms that we get to play in while we are still in this matrix, right? I like to use levels because it feels like I'm moving up, but we really aren't moving up. We're not moving anywhere. We're just moving into higher states. We're moving into higher frequencies. We're moving into higher dimensions. We use the word higher because that's how the human can understand it. We're not actually shifting up like this, right? It's into, we're moving into, we just can't see them. And we're still in this matrix while we're shifting, right? We're never going to be out of that matrix until the entire collective, entire earth plane and humanity has shifted together. And then it's just going to all of a sudden be in a different dimension. In the meantime, we're in this matrix. Here we are in this circle. We're all vibrating at different frequencies. We're all at different levels and layers. And in each level, there's a new paradigm, there's a new reality, there's new belief systems, right? But you're still able to experience and see all the other matrices, realities, paradigms that everyone's believing in and participating in. And so as you're shifting, you're still going to see, you're still going to experience the lower paradigms, the lower belief systems, the lower realities that vibrate at a lower frequency. But you get to choose. So the higher up you go in your consciousness, you're not escaping the lower frequencies. You're not escaping the lower densities, the lower realities, right? You just have a choice now. Oh, I'm a little bit in a different space now. Things down here don't resonate the same way as they do here. What am I going to choose? Right? A lot of us aren't watching the news anymore. Why do you think that is? The news vibrates at a very low frequency. It rattles the system energetically. You feel horrible when you're watching the news because the news is a very low density, right? Nothing wrong with it. We're not judging it. It's all energy. If you just feel into what it feels like, when you watch the news, many of us will feel really uncomfortable. That's a really good indication that you're not vibrating at that frequency. If you put on some sort of really beautiful music and you feel great, you're vibrating at that frequency, whatever that music is. Or if you put something else on the television and you feel great, you feel good, your body's happy, your body's satisfied, it's comfortable, you're vibrating at that frequency. When you listen to somebody talk about something that you don't agree with, that you're not vibrating at that frequency. It doesn't resonate. It's like, oh no, I don't think so. That's why our energetic body is so important. That's why it's so important to come into the physical body and to feel more and more and more. And that is why you are starting to feel more and more. The reason you're starting to feel more and more is because as you shift into higher states of consciousness, you are living in a higher state of consciousness, which means you are living more energetically. And when you live more energetically, you feel more, you receive more information, you hear more of your own truth, you hear more of your higher self, you hear more guidance, you're called to move into just you and your sovereign space. You no longer are listening to the beliefs, realities, and paradigms of other people. It becomes more about you and how you interact and engage in this matrix. Your energetic field is your compass. It's your everything. And as you shift, you begin to live in this more and more and more. We just have to learn to trust it because we're not used to it. So remember, this is a really good visual they're giving us right now of there's a third dimensional matrix that we're playing in, and there's all these levels of vibration that we can shift into. And as we continue to shift into higher and higher states of consciousness, higher vibrations, higher frequencies, the ways that we were living down below, the realities and paradigms, belief systems, they don't come with us, they stay there. Okay, and this includes dark energies. This includes dark entities. This includes parasites and demons and all these other things. They absolutely, unequivocally, 1000% cannot shift into a higher frequency. They just stay down here because that's their experience. That's what they have designed themselves to be a part of. Now, if these darker energies decide to shift their frequencies, then they'll shift them and they won't be dark entities anymore. They won't be demons. So they're not going to shift. A demon isn't going to shift into a higher state of consciousness and remain a demon. Okay? Demon is just a being that holds a low frequency. That's all. We just label it a demon. Right? They just are vibrating at a lower frequency. So it feels really gross. Again, coming back to news, watching the news. Ooh, that does not feel good. I'm not resonating with it. It feels low density, gross. A parasite, a dark entity, feels gross. Yuck, I don't like it. Doesn't resonate with me, right? And then as you move up into higher levels, and they're not levels, but you know what I mean, as you start to shift, what's down here stays as you move. And you continue to move. Right? And as you do, you can still look around and say, oh my God, remember when I was over here? Remember when I believed that? Remember when I was having those experiences? Remember when I was really resonating with that teacher, or I was really resonating with that teacher and now I'm not? The reason the reason that we feel called to certain teachers, and then all of a sudden, 6 months later, you're like, God, I just don't resonate with that teacher any longer. It's because you're just shifting, right? Or that teacher's shifting. Again, there's no right or wrong. There's no judgment around it. It just all is in this energetic playground, and we're all moving at our own pace. What's comfortable for us to move in. That's it. No attachment or judgment to it. No right or wrong to it. It's just an energetic playground. And how conscious can you be of it? Dark entities, parasites, dark beings are just a part of it. It's a reality and a paradigm, belief system that you can move out of. A belief system meaning if you believe that you're going to have these experiences with these beings, you'll have it. If you believe that you won't, you won't. You'll understand that and you'll know that to be your truth, especially as you're shifting. There's no right or wrong where you are. We can't judge each other along our path, right? You don't want to judge another person's path. So if somebody's experiencing these things, they're experiencing them. If somebody isn't, then they're not. That's it. But I invite all of us to begin to understand it on an energetic level and to understand the choice you have. And just because someone says something to you doesn't mean it's true. We are designed to be open and expanded. We are designed to keep the crown open. We are designed to be safe and sovereign in our energetic field. We are designed to not have dark energies, entities, and parasites come into us as we expand. As we shift. Now, when we were in the darker ages, the lower vibrations shifting up, we were vibrating much lower, much slower, so these energies could come in very easily. We could have these experiences very quickly and very easily. What a lot of you will notice is that we're not having those experiences anymore the way we used to, the way humans used to. Parasites, demons, entities, dark beings coming over and controlling humans. It's just not happening in the same velocity that it used to. Why? Because humanity is shifting out of it. still happens, still experienced by people, but not in the volume in which it was before, earlier. Okay, I think I'm done. I think I'm complete. Hope this was useful. Again, if it didn't resonate, delete it from your computer. If it resonated, I'm so glad. If it helped you, I'm so glad. Leave your comments down below. I love reading them, whether you agree or don't agree. I love reading all the comments. I take them all in. Thank you for subscribing to my channel. I deeply, deeply, deeply appreciate it. I deeply honor you for your journey, for being here on the planet right now. If you like this video, like it. If you think there's somebody that would really benefit from hearing the message, please forward it over to them. Send it to them. This message is not just for you and I. This message is for all the other humans that need to hear it, that may never find this channel and may never find this video. So please send it over to them. And I love you all so much. Thank you so much for being here and being on this journey and this epic collective shift in consciousness. And I will see you next time. All my love.